Hey, so today's widget of the week is the drop-down menu. So let's get started. You have a list of multiple choices that the user can choose from, usually more than 3. Then the drop-down menu is the right widget for you. I will show you how you can use it, what it supports, what it doesn't support, and if you stick till the end, I will show you how you can style the drop-down menu so it looks really nice. Let's create our own drop-down menu by typing in drop-down menu, and it accepts a type that we want it to return us when the user selects something. So as you can see, currently it's dynamic. We can leave it like that, but it's much better if we define a type. Type can be anything, a string, a class, an enum, whatever you might want. So let's use Copilot to generate an enum that contains fruits. So yeah, Copilot generated a basic list of fruits, so we can use that as the type, and the only required parameter for the drop-down menu is the drop-down menu entries, which is a list of drop-down menu entries. So let's map the fruit values to the drop-down menu entry. The value is the enum itself, so let's rename this to fruit and change it also here. And the label is required, and also a string, so we can use the enum name as the label, and we can maybe change it to uppercase so it looks a bit better. And it's complaining because this needs to be a list, as we already said. So let's see how it looks now when we add some commas. Great, so we created the drop-down menu. As you can see, we have the list for the drop-down menu with all the fruits that we have passed in. So the drop-down menu goes a bit below the notch and also takes up the whole height. So if you look into the drop-down menu properties, we can use the menu height to reduce its height so it can nicely fit into the screen. So let's set the menu height to maybe 300. So as you can see, this looks much better now. If we can select anything from the drop-down menu and it will highlight the selected option, we can also start the drop-down menu with initial selection. And for example, we can set it to an apple, and it will be set to an apple. So if you want to explain to the user what this drop-down menu is, we can use the label. Let's set the label, but if we set initial selection, the user will not see the label. We can help the user explain what our drop-down menu is by putting in a label. The label is a widget, so let's create a text widget fruits so that the user knows that it actually has some fruits here. So the label is more visible when we don't have anything selected. Okay, we need to hot reload it so that we can see it. So the fruit is here. Once the user selects a fruit, it will move up like a floating label. The next thing that we can set is also the width of the label, so maybe we want to make it more narrow, or in this case a bit wider. Let's see now. As you can see, the selection doesn't put like 3 dots if it doesn't fit, so that can be a problem, but it will break here into more lines. Let's give it a more reasonable width. And the next thing that we can put in is the leading and trailing icons. So it will be displayed here and here. Let's set that. The leading icon can be any widget, of course, but let's say it's let's see, do we have fruits? No, maybe food. Food bank, not really too much. The leading icon can be anything that we want, so it's a widget, but let's set it to an apple, for example. Let's see how it looks. So as you can see, it's appearing here on the left side, and the trailing icon is again a widget, and we can set it to a drop down or maybe arrow down, arrow down, downward. So maybe we want to change it, and if you want to change the selected trailing icon, we can also do that. Select a trailing icon, maybe we can put it to arrow up or something else, of course, arrow upward. Yep. Okay. So as you can see, it's pretty easy to change these ones. Next we can set the hint text, select the fruit, search for fruit, which will be displayed when we actually type something in here. But in order to type here, since the drop down menu is searchable by default, we need to request focus on tab to true. What does this do is actually make this, since this is a text field, it will make it clickable and focusable so that we can type something in here. And once we select it, the hint text appears, as we can see here. And we can type anything and it will select the first match, or it will highlight the first match that matches the query. We can also filter the search, so we can set to true. What this will do is when we type, it will remove everything else that is not it will remove everything else that doesn't match the search query. We can also set the text style. For example, maybe let's make it red and font size 20, why not? So if you select a banana, as you can see, it's red and font size is 20. Next we can style the input decoration of the text field. Input decoration. If you set it to just an empty input decoration theme, it sets its design to just a bottom line. We can easily change that. If you look into the construction, if you look at what we can style here, we can see that we can style a lot of things. For example, let's put in a border and maybe 20 border radius, so that looks a bit more interesting. We can also change the label style if you want, the floating label style. I'm still in the border. Label style, and let's make it blue and maybe 16. It's already blue. Let's try with green. Yeah, so it's not changing the size because this is the floating label. Let's see if we can change the floating label style. Yes, we can. And we can do it like this. Okay, since that it doesn't take into account the sizing, we can define if we want the label to be floating from the beginning, change the content padding, maybe change the color of the icons, fill it. Next time we can change the menu style. In the menu style we can set the background color, shadow color, surface tint, elevation. We can change the padding of the items itself, set the minimum size and maximum size, or if you want to prefer a fixed size, we can set the border. We can change the shape, change the mouse cursor, and change the alignment, but this doesn't really work as expected since it's anchoring to the right part here, so we can only move it to the top or a bit down right. So let's set the background, for example. It needs to be a material stage property. Stage property color, it doesn't accept anything, it doesn't return. So it needs to be a material state property, and let's say that the color is maybe a blue one. Cool. So we can also remove the surface tint color if you don't want to use it. Again, it needs to be a property. Let's say we can set it to transparent. Or maybe we want to have surface tint color. We can change the elevation. We can set the padding, maybe we want it to be more spaced. We can set a border. So the border looks interesting. Maybe we can increase the thickness of the border so it's more visible. And let's say if you want to set maybe the shape to be rounded. Shape rounded, circular 20, yes. Okay, we are having some problems here with the bracket that was needed, so as we can see that looks pretty nice. We can set the helper text. that will be displayed above the drop-down. And add some spacing here. That can be useful, but that doesn't really look really nice once the drop-down menu is collapsed. So you can think about if you need it or not. We can set the controller if you need the user's input for something else or just to have it accessible. Controller. And also we can set the unselected method so that we can actually see what the user selected. We can use the expanded insets that will basically try to match the parent's width and add only the left and right paddings, so it will ignore the top and bottom paddings. We can style the drop-down menu entry, so besides the label we can use also the label widget, which is a widget, and we can style it however we want. Maybe we can set it to be a container, and as you can see it looks a bit weird but works. And we also can set the trailing and leading icons for the drop-down menu entry. Trailing icon, so it can be anything, but let's again use an image. Icons.book maybe, and leading icon again. Let's see how that looks now. Yep. We can set the style. We can use the button style and set the background color maybe to material property. Let's see, maybe colors. Let's see how it looks. Yeah, it looks interesting, I would say. Yeah. We can set the foreground color if you want to white, so that the text basically uses it, so you don't need to set the text style. And yeah, that's basically it. Let's create a nice looking country code picker. So let's start by first defining the enum that we're going to use. It will contain the flag. It will contain the func and also the display name. Let's create a constructor. And let's add the first country, for example, Spain. Let's see if Copilot can help us. Yes, nice. Let's create more countries. Yeah, this should be enough, I guess. Let's create the const. Let's also fix the typo here. Cool. So we have our country codes. Let's create a dropdown. Again, using the values and mapping them to the drop-down menu entry. Say country. That name and making it a list so it can be displayed. Let's see how it looks. So as we can see, we have our list of countries. Doesn't look really nice. Let's set the height first. Let's set the width, so something more. Let's set the width. Let's set the width of it. And maybe a label, why not? It needs to be a widget. Okay, looks a bit better now. Let's start the drop-down menu actually. We start the drop-down menu item. Let's set a label widget, text, and we can say country dot name and set the style to be maybe bold. Also the font size to be a bit bigger, and also maybe the color can be maybe a bit less noticeable. For example, let's see how it looks. Nice. Let's set the leading icon to be the phone code of the country. Phone code, and the trailing icon can be the flag of the country. Let's see how it looks. Yeah, it looks a bit better now, only the font's a bit too. The font is a bit too big, maybe 18. Yeah, cool. And now we can set the menu style to be white. Menu style, background color. Okay, let's also set the surface tint color to white. Looks much better. Let's see if you select Spain. Okay. Belgium. Let's change what we display here in the label. That should be set here if I'm not wrong. We can format it something like country phone code, then the flag, for example. Yeah, that works, looks nice. And maybe we can also add the name. Let's again select something. Yep. So the label affects actually what you're displaying when the user selects it. That's nice. Maybe we can change the order of the flag first. Yeah. And let's say that we want the shape to be maybe rounded. We can set the shape to be maybe 16. Maybe even 20. Yeah. And we can also set the elevation. Maybe to 0. Nope. Let's set the elevation to 12. Looks nice. Okay, we can style the input now. Let's try with input decoration theme, and we can set the border radius to be 12 and change the enable border, since we are not requesting focus, so it's not focusable, and the border only is for the default state, so we need to use the enable border here, and again set the border radius. And the color, for example, we can set to colors black 12. Let's see. Yeah, looks a bit cleaner. The only problem that we have is that it looks a bit weird when the item is first on the top. So let's maybe add helper text to offset this. Yeah, looks a bit better. We can change the surface tint color of the selected item by setting the style of the drop-down menu entry, and we can use the menu item button from style and set the foreground color to color maybe pink. Let's try. Yeah, as we can see, we changed the color of the selected item, but also the text, since we didn't set the text color. Let's change the color fit to be black, so that should fix it. As you can see, that's how easy you can create your own country code and drop-down menu, and the user will love it. If you like my content and want to see more, please consider subscribing to my channel and sharing my content. Thanks, and until next time.